Today I'm going to be trying to predict the hardest league in the world to predict, the EFL Championship, and what it will look like at the end of the season. Let's get into this. Now, our first team of this prediction, I predict them to finish last place. They're going back down to League One after a couple of seasons in the Championship. It's going to be Rotherham. Now, they just haven't been good enough. They haven't scored enough points in this first half of the season, and the rest of the league is pulling away from them. They're in big trouble unless they make massive signings in January, but I don't think they will. I think they're coming last. Now, on to 23rd. We have a team that have just gone back up into the Championship. I think they're going to go straight back down. Sheffield Wednesday. They've had too much ownership drama. They've not been scoring enough points, and they've lost key players. I think they're going to go straight back down. I think they're going to take a few years to get back up. In 22nd, we have a team that, again, have just come back up. They've had a really good start to the season. However, I do believe that clubs around them are starting to get a bit better, and they will overtake them. Plymouth Argyle, they've done really well to get where they are, but I think the wheel's just going to come off at some point. I think the key players are going to go in January. They've just lost their star centre-back, and it just screams of a capitulation in the second half. We've seen so many clubs do it over the years. I think Plymouth will join them. 22nd. So now we have the teams that are finishing just above the relegation zone in QPR, Huddersfield and Blackburn. Now, QPR, they're a big club. I think they're too big to go down. I know that shouldn't be a factor, but they're going to make some signs. They're going to bring in some talent, and I think they'll do just enough to stay up. Huddersfield, they're not really in danger at the minute. I think they could get dragged into it. I think they're going to have just enough to survive, though. And Blackburn, I mean, they've fallen so far in the last 30 years, from Premier League champions to now just barely staying up in the Championship. I think they will stay up, but I think it will be tight. So next up, we have clubs that aren't going to be in a relegation fight, but they're also not going to be in a promotion push. We have got Stoke, Birmingham, Millwall. Stoke, they're a big club. They'll be fine. They don't really look any danger at the minute. I think they'll go a bit further up the league, but I think they'll be all right. Birmingham, they're in a lot of trouble at the minute. They should never have sacked John Eustace, but at least we know what the players are capable of. This next appointment is huge. It's either going to be them going up into mid-table or going down to the relegation zone. But I've played it safe. I've gone halfway between. I think they'll be fine. Millwall, I don't know what's going on with them at the minute. I think Gary Rowett going has caused something at the club to really just make it a bit of a mess at the minute. But I think they will be just mid-table. I think they'll be absolutely fine. On to three more mid-table clubs. Now, we've got Preston, Swansea and Norwich. Now, Preston's manager recently came out and said they've had a good start season. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think they've been about average. I think that's where I would have predicted them at the start of this season. Swansea now, not so long ago, we were talking about them being in the Premier League with the likes of Michu, whereas nowadays they're stuck in the Championship, mid-table, not looking like they're going to go up, but also not in danger of going down. Norwich, now this club really puzzles me this season. They've not looked good. They have been struggling this season. Norwich used to be a club we associated with jumping up and down between the Championship and the Premiership. Well, now they're not even going to get a playoff spot. They're not even going to be looking like getting a playoff spot at this rate. Something has to change there. On to the top half team now. We have got Bristol City, Watford and West Brom. Now, Bristol City, they're there already. They're mid-table. They'll be fine. Watford, another club that you'd expect to be up there pushing for playoffs, but just haven't quite been on it this season. And West Brom, now this is a bold one from myself here. I can see them just capitulating. They look a little bit shaky in games at the minute. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up this form, and I think they will pay the price for it. Right, on to two teams now in 9th and 8th. I think they're just going to miss out on that playoff scrap. It is Middlesbrough and Sunderland. I think Middlesbrough will be pleased with this. They're going to kick on in that new year. I think they're just going to not quite have enough to go and get into that playoff spot, but I think they'll do well. Sunderland, they're just so hit and miss. I just don't think they're going to have the consistency to go and kick on and get into that playoff fight. On their day, they can beat anyone in the league, but also they can be beaten by anyone in the league. I think that will be Sunderland's downfall. Right, on to the final team that I think are going to miss out on the playoff places. We have Cardiff. Now, I think after last season, they'll be pretty pleased with how they're getting on at the start of the season. I think they would take 7th. Obviously, they'll be quite disappointed to miss out on playoffs coming that close. But at the start of the season, if you'd have said to Cardiff fans, you're going to finish 7th and you're going to have a solid season, I think they'd take that. Right, kicking things off in the business end of things, we've got Coventry. Now, they barely missed out last season. One penalty kick away from being in the Premier League. Can they do it this year? They're going to have a chance. It's just whether they take it. Right, on to a team who've hit a bit of a tough time in form, but I expect them to turn it around. It's Hull City. Okay, the Tigers, they've had a really hard run of form over the last 4 or 5 matches, but they will get back to their best, and I predict them to have a good January transfer window, and they will be up there come the end of the year. Onto a club now that may be disappointed to be here, given how well they've started this season. It's Ipswich. Now, the side are really good at the minute. However, they've had a little dip in form. They've had some really big injuries, like to George Hurst, and I think it could cost them, with massive clubs breathing down their necks, with huge squads that are only going to get better during January. Ipswich would do well to hold out. I really hope for them they do, but I just can't see it happening. On to the team that I predict to finish just outside the top 2 spaces. It is Southampton. Now, after a bit of a shaky start by their standards, Russell Martin has got this team playing, and they are breathing down the neck of Ipswich. However, I just think the wheels are going to come off towards the end of the season. I believe they will spend a large part of the next half of the season in those top 2, but at some point towards the end of the season, it will fall off. And I think that might be their downfall in the playoffs as well. Now, we are going to be kicking things off with the 2 teams that are going to be automatically in the Premier League next season come May. It is in 2nd place and just missing out on the title, Leeds United. Now, they've had a bit of a below par start to this season, but by the end of January, they would have made some key signs and they're going to be on top form. They are so close to just kicking on and going up there and getting automatic promotion, and I think they will find it. I think that they are going to have a great second half of the season, and don't expect them to be too far behind the team I've got up here. It is no other than Leicester City. Now, Leicester have had a really good first half of the season and expect that form to continue. They're going to make a couple of changes in the transfer window. Not too many though, because their squad is near enough perfect. I think that they could go on to break Reading's record here, and I think that it will be a memorable season for the Foxes. Their summer signings have looked to have paid dividends, with a squad that I believe is slightly better than the one they got relegated with from the Premier League. Despite not having Maddison, despite not having Harvey Barnes, they have reinvested that money in key areas of the pitch. Harry Winks is a great buy for them, and so was Conor Cody, bringing that Premier League experience into the Championship, and it is showing with the way they've started this season. So that was my Championship predictions. Let me know if you make any changes in the comments below. But before you do that, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. And I will catch you in the next one.